When I went to Holy Angels for high school in the 80s, we learned that Vatican II was the greatest thing that could possibly have ever happened to the church. It brought us out of the Dark Ages, it liberated us, freed the church, and brought it up to modern times. And we were told that that was a huge blessing and that the church now was better than ever. I grew up in that. I grew up in the post-Vatican II church, what's known as the Novus Ordo or New Order. I didn't know any different. That's what Catholicism was. The church that I went to St. Gregory the Great, which has stadium seating, sort of a stage where the priest stands. I don't know, there's a table. It's really groovy. It's very swirly. There's this crazy sculpture thing on the wall that I would stare at like all the time, trying to figure out this sculpture. It's like rocks. It's like rock people, kind of like segmented people, like clawing their way up to this Jesus, like a resurrected Jesus. I don't know. It was very weird, still inexplicable. So I was raised on eagle's wings and Be Not Afraid and all the other really groovy church songs. My favorite mass was the 4 p.m. Saturday mass that supposedly counted for Sunday, and it was the folk mass. It was super groovy. They had a whole ensemble band. So when the nuns told us that, I thought, yeah, okay, cool. Everything they ever told us about the old church was just, stuffy, Dark Ages, that kind of thing. Oppressive. I was in my 20s when someone told me that there was such a thing as the Latin Mass. And I thought, no way, I thought we were all done with that. I thought that was all over with. It was not all over with. It was still there, lurking in the shadows. And I thought, okay, well, weird. It's probably for the old people. Boy, was I wrong. In fact, the old people were real mad about it, kind of. I think it was the boomers that screamed the loudest for the revamping of the church. So I definitely blame them for the felt banners with like grapes and wheat stalks and all the kumbaya, Jesus Christ superstar kind of stuff they gave us. So when I heard that there was such a thing as the Latin Mass, I thought, okay, great. Good for whoever watched that. And then I actually don't remember how it all went down, but okay, my sister read about it, but she couldn't get to it. And so she told my brother about it and he went. Pretty sure that's how it goes. Either way, he was the one that told me about it. He said, you want to try this out, check out this Latin Mass. And I was like, sure, why not? I was getting back into Catholicism. I was going to Mass. I was trying to make it a habit of going to daily Mass. I was going to my Novus Ordo parish because that's all I knew. I didn't know anything about traditional Catholicism. And I said, sure, I'd love to check it out. When he came to pick me up, I was wearing an orange pantsuit. And he said, I don't think any other women there will be wearing pants. And I thought, what? No woman will be wearing pants? Not even one? And he said, no, you will be the only girl wearing pants. And I thought, first of all, how could that possibly be true? And second of all, I don't care. Like I think this is a nice outfit. My orange pantsuit. I think the pants were stirrup pants. So we went and I was, sure enough, the only one wearing pants. Everybody looked really nice in like their dresses and suits and stuff like that. And I mean, we grew up with my mom telling us to wear your good jeans, nothing ripped. It was very, very small, very small, very small. Like Little House on the Prairie kind of small, you know what I mean? Like one room. Obviously there were other rooms, but like where the Mass was very small. Not St. Greg's big, not, stadium big. It was actually a former Methodist church that they were in. It was beautiful, smoky, confusing. I had taken Latin in high school and I had no idea what was going on. I mean, I had an idea what was going on because I could see, but I had no idea what was being said. And there were a lot of things that were different from the Novus Ordo Mass that I knew. So I wasn't really, I don't know. I left and I thought, well, that was nice. That was an interesting experience. Like you might treat a field trip or something. And I didn't really think about it. I don't actually know how much time passed before I went there again. And I don't really know how I went there again. I obviously with my brother. I brought my friend Bridget with me. Bridget factors into a lot of my stories. Hi, Bridget. This time I was wearing a dress. I had just had my second son, whom I was nursing. And I remember we walked in, and when you walk in the door, there were stairs to go up, and then you go into the chapel, or stairs to go down, and there was like bathrooms and like a little kitchen or whatever. And I didn't know anything about the building. So I was sitting on these steps, the steps that you go down to go to the bathroom with, my dress hiked up, feeding my baby. And, several women passed me and were like, you could go, there's a place for you to sit downstairs if you're more comfortable. And I thought, no thanks, I'm okay. I'm good. I don't know how to talk to people. With a small church like that, you definitely notice if somebody's sitting on the stairs, the stairs that everybody has to walk up and down. So that was a little bit awkward. Again, it was, I thought, very nice, very beautiful. And then I don't actually know what happened. I must have gone a couple more times. I don't know. So here we are, 1998, freshly married. And my brother was encouraging us to go. And I don't know if my husband went. He must have gone at least one time with me and thought like me, this is very nice, but, it's not for me. I don't really understand what's going on. I like our church. I like our priest. So we were happy where we were. My brother said, just try it again. So we tried it again. And I instantly felt pulled at that point. When we went again, I thought, this is where we're supposed to be. I don't know what made me think that, but I don't know. I felt it. My husband did not feel it. He thought how I did initially, where it's just really nice, but it's not for me. I said, if you go one more time and you don't immediately think this is where we should be, I will never bring it up again. And we've been going ever since. So it was 1998. On Christmas, which was a Friday, we went to our church for the last time. And that Sunday, we went to the Latin Mass in Buffalo, and we haven't gone anywhere else since. We only go to the traditional Latin Mass. I remember saying something to this older lady who was at our parish, our old parish, that we've been checking out the Latin Mass, and that, it was really interesting. And she thought, oh, I hope it's not those schismatics. I hope it's not the excommunicated people who are having Mass in Buffalo. And I thought, oh no, it's not. It's just like an old timey, Latin Mass, where the priests just say the Mass in Latin or whatever. So I said to my brother, the lady at church, asked me if I who are these schismatics? Who are these, the excommunicated ones? And he said, oh no, she's talking about the church that we're going to. And he said, but she's wrong. It's not, they're not. I was like, uh-oh, there's more to know. There's more to know. And I am going to need to know this because people are going to be questioning me about it. And I don't know I don't even know what's schism, what is excommunication? What does that even mean? Yeah, I was raised Catholic. I don't know. I didn't know any of these things. So I did tons of research, as everybody does. When you start going to a Mass, a parish, a mission chapel run by the priests of the Society of St. Pius X, you have to expect that you're going to be in some conversations about it with other people. And so I thought maybe I would tell you guys what it's like from somebody who goes there. You know what I mean? I didn't know anything going in, and we've been going for 28 years, almost 28 years this Christmas. And I can tell you from a non-theologian, doctor of the church, just regular person who goes to Mass, I'm not gonna debate, councils of whatever from whatever century or whatever. I'm gonna tell you what it's like to go to Mass as a Catholic who wants truth and beauty and precisely the food that my soul requires. It's very reverent. Women cover their heads out of respect for the Blessed Sacrament. Men do not cover their heads for the same reason. Everybody is dressed very modestly. There's nothing real short or tight or low cut on the women. And the men, usually have suits or a nice sweater or button down or something. And everybody is very respectful. There's no talking in the chapel. You know, like when we went to St. Greg's, everybody was talking. It was like old home week. Hey, how you doing? I mean, it was just very conversational. Obviously, things with the Mass have changed ever since Vatican II. In fact, I read that, I don't know if it was 5 or 6, but at Vatican II, the Catholics called in 5 or 6 Protestant ministers to ask them how they could make the Mass more Protestant. Could you imagine? So anyway, there was like there was a bishop. He was an archbishop who was at the council and was like, this is a little bit crazy. Like, what are we talking about here? Like, why are we doing this? Like, what's happening? Why are we revamping, modernizing things? He objected to a bunch of stuff. And then he was all set to retire. And some seminarians, some young men studying for the priesthood, approached him and said, listen, we would like a traditional formation. We don't like this brand new stuff. We just want to be priests like they've always been, you know? And he was able to procure a place to have a seminary and educate the young men who wanted to learn the traditional Latin Mass. His name was Archbishop Lefebvre. He was French. He was a missionary priest in Africa. He was always very, very good, very pious. He saw a need for this and he started it instead of retiring. No one really paid a lot of attention until he was like, well, I don't know. I don't think this is getting better. Like, I think things are getting worse. The Second Vatican Council was in the 60s. And so anybody who went to church in like the 70s, 80s, you know, up till now, you can see the progression of just like how ridiculous. Un-Catholic things, right? Un-Catholic things. Even popes have been doing some un-Catholic things. And he saw that and he was like, well, I'm really actually quite concerned now. I perceive an emergency situation. I feel like there is a real danger to the faith if I don't keep this going. He knew he wasn't going to live forever. And so he consecrated 4 bishops. And you're technically not supposed to do that without permission from the Pope. But it's lawful if you genuinely perceive an emergency situation. So he consecrated these 4 bishops. This was in 1988. And for a while, this was, you know, super scandalous. And everybody was like, oh no, they're the worst. In the late 90s, all the people had been hearing was, oh no, this is, you know, they're bad and they did the wrong thing and they're excommunicated. So excommunicated means you cannot go to communion. You are no longer, you don't have the privileges of a Catholic in the Catholic Church because you've committed such a grievous sin against the church. Like you need to go to like confession with the Pope or whatever, somebody bigger than your priest, your regular priest. So I had it explained to me like there is some reconciliation necessary. Okay, so it's not like we're not like totally in sync, but that's okay because there are some crazy things going on in Rome that I don't want to be in sync with. In the early 2000s, I think it was Pope Benedict that issued something that was like, yeah, it turns out the Latin Mass is fine, the society, they're all good, everybody's fine. And everybody was like celebrating it. And it was like, gross, like we were fine. We didn't need this. Like what, like, are you kidding me? There are actual movements, resistance movements against the society for being too conciliar, too close to Vatican II, too much in agreement with Rome. There are people who think the Pope is not the Pope. They're called sedevacantists. I know some. I would say they're not, you know, they don't mean bad things. They just don't. They're trying to reconcile what they see with what they know. And when it doesn't jibe, it must be that there is no Pope. I am not a sedevacantist. I believe that we have a Pope. I just believe he's not a very good one, which is, you know, possible. He's a man. There have been popes with children. But we're talking about right now. And the reason we're talking about this right now is because they're about to do it again. They're about to consecrate some more bishops because the bishops that were consecrated in the 80s are now old or dead. They need to keep it going. There's still this perceived emergency. But I have to say that the tides are definitely turning. There are so many young people at our church, families, just growing exponentially. When I first started going, we had one Mass and it was at, I think, 4:30 in the afternoon on Sunday because the priest had to say Mass in 2 other cities first. Now they have enough priests that they have priories all over the United States. They have schools, and we are still considered a mission chapel, but we now we have 2 Masses because there's so many people, and a lot of times even those are standing room only. Our church is flourishing and growing, and the rest of Buffalo is being sold off to pay for the sex abuse scandals. Like legit, there's like old churches, like beautiful old churches that have been there, longer than Vatican II, and they are being sold to pay for the disgusting behavior of the priests and the people in charge of the priests. I say that's fine. You know what I mean? Like, let that die out. Let the Novus Ordo run its course. When the older generation that was screaming for this liberation, this modernization, when they die out, and they are dying out, so will the Novus Ordo. If you're reading things about the society, they're against Rome, they're against the Pope. I remember my brother was ordained. He's not a society priest, but he was ordained in the same ordination ceremony as some society priests at the society seminary. This was years ago. It's not even there anymore. And my sister came, and my sister is not traditional. She's Novus Ordo. And we were walking through the seminary, and there was a picture of the Pope on the wall. And she said, "Oh, you guys believe in the Pope?" Like he's Santa Claus. I was like, "Yeah, what? Yeah, like the Pope is a human being. And he can make mistakes, and he can be wrong, and he can think wrong things because he's human. And he's susceptible to, wrong information or temptation or whatever it is." Like if you look at the Pope as the Holy Father, not all fathers are super awesome, right? Some fathers have gambling addictions. Some fathers drink too much. Some fathers have a short temper. Some fathers are absent or disinterested. They're still fathers. They still have children. Just because he's Pope doesn't mean he's immune to the perils of humanity. Pray for him. We already know, Our Lady of Fatima already told us that the Holy Father will consecrate Russia to her Immaculate Heart. He will do it late, and he will have much to suffer, but he will do it. And in the end, her Immaculate Heart will triumph. So we already know this. We already know this is true. This is going to happen. We just have to hang in there and get as many people onto the lifeboat as possible. The priests of the Society of St. Pius X currently are the lifeboat. Vatican II was not anything doctrinal. It's just like, hey, we thought it'd be groovy if we do all this. And people were like, and then slowly but surely it took over like an infection, like a cancer, and it's dying out. There are good Catholics in the Novus Ordo who think if they just work hard enough, they can make it the way it's supposed to be, but you can't. If you're reading these things and you're like, I don't know, I think the Society of St. Pius X is bad. Come and see for yourself. Say a prayer to your guardian angel to help you see things clearly. Pray to your patron saints. Ask Our Lady to help you see what you need to see. And of course, ask Jesus and his Sacred Heart to direct you and to direct your heart to truth. And if your whole life you have been eating rice cakes, and then you have an exquisite strawberry shortcake made with fresh strawberries and fresh cream, you're like, oh, oh, this is food. That's cardboard. Yeah, those are felt banners. This is meat. This is God.